How are you seeing the housing market as a whole?
This is causing this feeding frenzy for houses right now.
And I'll be honest with you, we've been getting slammed here in Texas and we're losing. I'm losing offers paying 50, 100K over.
The last three listings I had, they sold for well over the asking price in such a short period of time.
What do you see happening if interest rates just shot up?
Yeah, I think it will have a cooling off period. If they were actually to skyrocket, we would have a correction, in my opinion.
If someone is confused right now and they want to buy a house, they're motivated, they got the money, what's your advice for them?
I'm telling everyone, hey, make sure you have long-term time horizons, 7 to 10 plus years.
What's going on, everybody? I hope you're all having a blessed and beautiful day. In today's video, we have a very special guest with us known as Jason Walter, aka the Housing Market Updater, aka the Pandemic Updater, aka the real estate agent in Sacramento, California, and the one with 23,000 plus loyal YouTube subscribers. He is with us here right now, and we are so excited to have him with us. Now, in this video, we're talking about a couple of things that's going to make you guys excited. Number one, we're talking about the housing market. Number two, the pandemic. Number three, the stimulus packages. And number four, what in the world is happening in the economy in whole. Now, for those of you that don't know, I'm a real estate agent 24/7, 365. Every single day I do this. And also Jason is the same exact thing. We have our boots on the ground doing this daily. So we're experiencing what's happening. And you're about to get experience firsthand from both of us who are doing this every single day. Now, in this video, before we start, I need two things from you all. Number one, if you got any value, hit that like button. We would really, really appreciate it. Even Jason agrees with it. And number two, this is something that we officially launched, which is a Discord channel. You guys can join it. It's for free. We talk daily about real estate, money, and business. We're probably going to have Jason give us a special appearance in there as well, hopefully. So if you guys haven't joined it, link is going to be below so you guys can check it out. Now, Jason, for those who don't know you, we're diving right into this. I want you to give us a 30-second to a minute intro, who you are and how you got everything going that you have right now.
Hey, yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. This is awesome. I'm really excited for this video here. Yeah, I've been a real estate agent for about 8 years now. And working in the greater Sacramento area. Before that, I was a CPA working probably 60 hours per week and decided to move over to real estate and absolutely love it. Started my YouTube channel back in October 2019, talking about everything about Sacramento. A lot of people are relocating here. And then the pandemic hit. So I started making more stimulus packages, videos, because I wasn't really allowed to leave my house for about a month. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll just post more videos. And then now it's more of like housing market updates, like you said.
That is awesome. Now, let me ask you this. When I do my accounting with my CPA, the CPA makes a certain amount of money. And let's say he's making 70, 80, 100, 150,000, however much they make, depending how good they are. When I do my accounting with my CPA and he sees the numbers us real estate agents make, of course, it varies from person to person. I sometimes feel like he's like, wow, these realtors make money and I might become a real estate agent. Is that why you switched from being a CPA to a realtor, or it's just a coincidence that you just wanted to make the swap?
Yeah, it's a coincidence. I basically tried a bunch of different types of jobs in the CPA world. Never did taxes. But I worked for a big four accounting firm. My first job, I got to work at about 8 o'clock. I didn't leave until 11 o'clock at night.
Wow.
Started that process 5 days a week and worked on Saturdays. I can't see myself doing this long term. So I had a buddy, long story short, I had a buddy who was a real estate agent and decided to make the move. And so happy I did. It's an awesome job.
That's awesome. I love that. Now we're getting right into it, Jason. As a real estate agent, seeing what's happening every single day, the thing I want to start off with you is, how are you seeing the housing market as a whole regarding pricing, competition, supply? What's your take on it with your experiences right now?
Yeah, geez. I mean, talk about this a lot with we have record low inventory. We have near record low interest rates, right? Interest rates were 2.65% in January. They've risen quite a bit, but historically they're very low. And so this is causing this feeding frenzy for houses right now. And so it's the numbers we're seeing right now are definitely not sustainable. In California, I think our average high right now, our average increase in prices is around 20%. So a 20% increase in prices in 1 year is definitely not sustainable. And so at some point we're going to have some sort of correction, but it's anyone's guess when that's going to happen.
And
What
I
about you? What's your take? What do you think is going to happen?
see where I am right now. So what you said about the interest rates is huge. I did a 30-year investment loan on a triplex that I purchased, and I was blown. I got a 2.6% on an investment loan. And it was a
For a 30
30-year
year?
fixed, yeah. And the deal made sense without it having that low of a rate. It made sense at a 4%. So getting at a 2.6, it blew me away. So that's a huge motivation that's happening for many people. Now, the market that we have over here, I'm in Dallas, Texas specifically, but we're hearing Austin, Texas is exploding. I think they had a 15% year over year increase. So in your area, it's 5% more plus or minus. But
Well, that's
Austin, Texas,
California in general, in as a whole, but in Sacramento, I think it's around 15% year over
okay,
year.
that makes sense. I got it. Yeah, for us in Dallas, Texas specifically, I don't know the stats on exactly how much we're appreciating, but I do know one thing. There's a client who purchased a house, and then literally 4 months later, they appreciated $40,000. It was a $400,000 home. It's worth 440 based on comps and their neighbor just selling. So, I mean, you can run those numbers. I think that's a 10% right off the top in 4 months, not even the year. So it's
Yeah.
wild what's happening. So California, for some reason, I would assume Cali in general was, I mean, they had a lot of people leaving it to Las Vegas and stuff. Are you getting affected by that in Sacramento?
We're not. It's actually the opposite. So in the Bay Area, everyone knows it's very expensive to live there. And so with the work at home arrangements, we're getting a lot of people moving from the Bay Area to Sacramento. And often they have like a 1 bedroom studio in San Francisco.
Mhm.
They buy a nice house in Sacramento with a pool, nice big backyard. And sometimes their housing payment even goes down.
Wow.
So they move from, just 1 bedroom apartment or studio to a beautiful home in Sacramento. So we're seeing a lot of that in Sacramento right now. So I think we're seeing that kind of across the country too, right? Where people are moving from more expensive areas to more affordable areas, especially if they're able to work from home.
I mean, we were called Texas because we were so affordable, and everybody's like Texas is bigger and also cheaper. And I'll be honest with you, we've been getting slammed here in Texas because everybody was assuming that they started flocking here, and we're
Mm.
losing. I'm losing offers paying 50, 100K over, waiving everything,
Wow.
and it's unbelievable. People who live here are like, what the hell is going on? Like
Wow.
it's not sustainable or anything. I mean, you have a house for 250K the other day. I placed an offer on it. And the agent responded saying, we liked your personality and wanted to work with you because I tried to build that rapport with them. And then she ended
Definitely.
up saying, but we couldn't deny a 60K over cash offer. I mean,
What was the purchase asking price?
it was 250. It sold for 60K over, making
Wow.
it at 310. And then they had a
Nuts.
quick close of 14 days. They waived, I mean, they didn't have to waive anything. It's cash. And we're coming in with even a conventional loan, 20% down, you're still not having a chance. So it's
Yeah, right.
crazy.
We're
What's your
seeing that
take?
in Sacramento too, because the appraisal value is always pushing the limits, right? Every single new listing, they're getting in contract for very close to what it'll appraise for, if not over. And so we're seeing a lot of people writing offers with capping the appraisal amount. I saw your video just the other day about what to place your how to make your offer more attractive, and
Mhm.
we're seeing that. Last two listings I had, or last three listings I had, the buyers waive their appraisal contingency or put a cap on it, and they sold for well over the asking price in such a short period of time. But that's just because we have a lack of houses for sale in Sacramento. We're down like 50% compared to a year ago. So when a house hits the market, it's just a feeding frenzy as long as it's priced right.
It's unbelievable. What's your take on the houses appreciating so fast and then homeowners doing cash out refinances and actually taking out a good amount of cash? Do you see that hitting them if prices do retrace? Like, what's your take on that in general?
Yeah, so can you repeat the first part of your question?
Yeah, so we have homeowners, for example, they're having a house that's worth 300K because the market is so hot, it's worth 350K, and that extra 50,000 in equity, they're taking out as much as they can maximize to go enjoy, like making a kitchen nicer or making a
Yeah.
pool or doing something. Me personally, I see that hitting them back if prices retrace. What would you say about that?
Yeah, I think it's a good call. So, what I'd be most worried about is someone did a cash out refi to buy a boat or RV, something that they really don't necessarily need. Not going to increase the value of their property. If you're doing a cash out refi and you're remodeling your kitchen, adding on whatnot, that does increase the value of your home. But at some point, like you said, home prices have to, go down at some point. And so I would just, would hope that those people that are doing that have long-term time horizons. And that includes people who are buying houses too, right? I'm always telling my buyers and my viewers on YouTube, I wouldn't buy unless you have long-term time horizons of 7 to 10 plus years, because who knows at some point, who knows when the market's going to crack? It will at some point, but we have no idea what or when, I should say. But I've been saying that ever since I've been a real estate agent too. I mean, you shouldn't buy a house with short-term time horizons. When I get people contacting me and say, "Hey, Jason, I want to buy a house." I say, "Okay, great. What's your time horizons? How long do you think you'll be living in Sacramento for?" And sometimes they say, "Oh, maybe a year, few years, maybe." As honestly, I make money by buying and selling houses, but I'm going to give you my honest opinion and say I would just wait it out. I would just rent, because who knows what prices are going to do in the near term.
I agree 100%. That was the question I was following up with is we have people who are buying right now, paying premiums, paying over the asking price. The appraisal is coming in at 400. They're willing to pay the 430. So they're putting a clear 30,000 over the ask price. I'm just throwing numbers out there, but that's really what's happening. And if the prices were to go down 10%, 20%, 30%, once you start going 30, 40%, I don't know if it would go to that extent. But I do know one thing. A house that's worth 300,000 a year and a half ago is now showing to be worth 350 to 400,000. So if it were to go down 10, 20%, people would assume that's a crash, but realistically, it's just going back to its true levels. Now, what happens to those people who paid 400K for a home worth 300K? What do you see happening to those?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're seeing in our market, a lot of people are doing conventional loans, right? So 20% plus down. And so the people to be underwater, hard to say, right? It's really challenging to see, because we're seeing people paying 20 to 30% down. And so if home prices go down 20%, they're not going to be underwater. And so when you compare it to like 2008, for example, where people weren't even putting any money down at all on buying houses, and then they weren't even qualified really to buy a home, right? So the stated income. And so it was made perfect sense why people decided to default on or decided to stop paying their mortgages, right? Because they had no skin in the game. But now if we're doing a lot, but people are buying houses and they have a lot of money down, they have a lot more skin in the game. So they're going to be less inclined to foreclose or get their house foreclosed on.
Yeah, and
What's your take though?
I agree with that, but let me also share with you something. I have a couple of clients right now. They're doing FHA loans. They're putting 3.5%, 5%, some a little bit more than that, believe it or
Yeah.
not. And what they're doing is they're taking the most amount down that they're basically not trying to put the most amount down, and they're keeping that cash pile to pay on top of the appraised value just to win the house.
Oh, I
Now,
see.
if you're buying a 300K home, putting 3.5% down, I think what's that, 7,000 or something, you're paying 20, 30K over cash where it doesn't appraise. You're instantly underwater if it goes down even
Right.
5%, because
Yep.
you're in the house at 3.5%. So you're already going to go down 1.5% if it goes down just 5. So
Yep.
maybe in your area, you guys are doing the 20%. Over here, anybody who has the 15, 20, 30% down is having a better advantage, but I'm having offers placed and we're winning some of them with 3.5 down, and they're paying way higher than normal. So it is kind of concerning to see what's going to happen when that happens. Now,
I
many
agree.
people,
Yeah, especially with the lower down payment. I think like in our market, it's around 65% are conventional, but obviously, as we know,
okay,
you can put 5% down and still have a conventional loan. But I
yeah,
think around 10% to 15% are FHA and VA, so minimal amount. But yeah, the people buying now that are putting minimum down, 3.5% down, and willing to pay way more than the appraised value, yeah, they're going to be underwater right away. And if home price is correct, they might be in trouble if they have short-term time horizons.
correct. And some people watching this video right now, if you're watching, you might be like, well, if they're overpaying 50,000 or 100,000, it shouldn't matter because they don't plan to sell within the year, 2 years if prices did come down. But the truth is this is we don't know what life does or takes us. So you
True.
might be buying the house with a 5 to 10 year plan to stay, but what if in 2 years you have to relocate, your job completely shifted, family, some problems happen, and you have to go to a different state or country. You were
Mhm.
forced to sell I mean, you're going to be underwater. So for those saying it doesn't matter if you're going to stay longer term, it doesn't. But what happens if life hits you and something has to happen or transition? That's when it really hurts the most.
No,
Now,
I agree with you because I mean, how many times we help people buy houses like, oh, this is gonna be my forever home, and they contact you 5 years later and say, hey,
yeah,
I want to sell my house and move. So yeah, you're right. Life changes, and so circumstances changes as well.
I agree. I have a guy who's like, this is my forever home, and they're like 26. And I'm like, I don't know if it's gonna be your forever home. You still got, let's say, 40 years left if God gives you it. I don't know if that's really gonna stay your forever home. So I agree. Now, if you're watching this video, guys, getting any value, enjoying Jason's answers, enjoying the questions, please don't forget to hit that like button and show that love and support. And any questions you guys have, drop it in the comments. We'll answer them after we finish this video. And those questions that you guys ask will be answered by me and Jason. We'll spend some time, come to the comment section. It'll be exciting. Now, I have a personal question for you, Jason. This is a curveball at you, so get ready. Fix up your
Oh
glass.
man.
It's coming in fast. Would you buy an investment property in this current market? And if you would say yes or no, I want to know why.
It probably depends on where the location is, right? So I haven't purchased an investment property. It's definitely one of my goals. I personally probably would wait it out just because of home prices being so high. So in our market, you really like to put down more than 20% in order to break even from an ROI perspective. And so home prices are going to have to come down in order to have a better ROI. So in my opinion, I'm personally going to be waiting it out and seeing when, if I guess I'm going to be waiting out until home prices go down in order to increase the ROI.
Okay.
I'm not really too concerned about the eviction moratoriums. I think if you do a good job of screening your tenants, you kind of mitigate that risk. But the home prices right now are so high that you really have to put down a lot of money in order to make it work. But that's just like in my area though. So what's it like in Dallas?
Yeah, so for us, it's, investments are not making too much sense to make right now with the current retail numbers and stuff. But I
Mm-hmm.
always tell anybody who's listening or watching, if the numbers made sense, even if you're in the hottest market, you still take that investment. Me personally, I'm looking at a handful of investments right now. I love to get into the commercial world investments, and that's really where I invest all my money is the commercial real estate. I do have, like I said, a duplex and then a halfplex and then also a triplex, but that's just that those are purchases a couple of years ago. But my focus once I got into the commercial real estate is just to mess with that. Some will say retail shopping centers have been hurt, and that's true. But there's also certain areas where they're still booming, they're still doing great. Tenants are still killing the game, especially in the restaurant industry. If you're a good restaurant local, you're going to do great. So for me, if the numbers made sense, I would jump on it. Right now, I'm evaluating some investments. I was just looking at one before we jumped onto this call together, and they're asking, it's 1.2 million. It's about 4,600 square feet. It's about 75% leased out. They have 25% empty, and it's a empty shell, meaning that it has nothing in it. It has no HVAC, no plumbing, no electrical, absolutely nothing. And when you're buying this investment for 1.2 and you're running your numbers at that, it might make sense, but what people don't catch is that you need about 100,000 just to make it ready for a tenant to get in. So that's something I was looking at. So my answer to that is I would definitely get into it if the numbers made sense, even if the market is hot, because our rates are low, which encourage that. And that's why they make rates low, to make movement in the economy, to make people motivated to keep on
Yep.
borrowing more.
Very true. No, excellent point. I mean, if the numbers work, right? So I would shy away from that.
For
We're
sure.
just not
Now,
seeing a whole lot of opportunity in our area, I don't think.
it's a little bit tougher there. I think your pricing is a lot higher than what we have over here in the residential, at least.
Yeah, our average here was around 500,000, 550 maybe, was around in the 400s last year for a median home price in Sacramento County, which is a huge area.
Okay, I got it. Now
Yeah.
you made a video recently about this 40-year mortgage and then the foreclosure protection until about 2022. And I know this is a proposal. What's your take on that in whole? I watched your video from the beginning to the end and I loved it. But those who are watching right now and wondering, is this just for the people who are in mortgage forbearance, or would it be for potential investors or for just anyone moving forward?
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of confusion around there. They see a title and they comment saying, "Oh my gosh, can't wait until a 40-year mortgage," or "I want a 100-year mortgage." Um, yeah, it's just a proposal from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is a government agency. But the 40-year is only for loan modifications,
Hmm.
not for purchases. So the video wasn't about making purchases for using a 40-year loan. So it's loan mods. And then also the foreclosure moratorium, they are saying, hey, we should delay that until the end of the year. So December 31st, 2020. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens from that. They are not going to be making any decisions until May, it sounds like.
Hmm.
They're asking for comments from loan servicers, which I can only imagine what those comments would be. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens with that.
Interesting. Okay, because I was like, I'll take 100-year loan if I was doing investments. I would love that. Less payments. I mean, instead of paying 1,500 a month, to be paying like 700, 600. So that would be awesome. But
Yeah,
we
right.
need a
And make the
clarification.
ROI a lot easier, that's for sure.
100%. But as you know, if something becomes easier, then pricing goes higher and kind of everything just follows with it. It's annoying, but that's just how it works. Now we have mortgage forbearances, we have foreclosure moratoriums, we have eviction moratoriums. Do you see these things being positive for the real estate market or being more negative for the real estate market?
Yeah, it depends if you're a buyer or seller, right?
True.
So the forbearances, I think like early on, especially, a lot of people thought that was going to be causing this foreclosure or tsunami, right?
Mhm.
But we've gone from, I believe, just over 4.5, 4.7 million people who were in forbearance in the beginning of May, middle of May, but now we're at 2.3 million. Around 4.4% of all mortgages right now are in forbearance. So they have been going down steadily over the past several months here. And then, as we've seen, I mean, there's been government intervention with increasing the term of the forbearance. It was 12 months thanks to the CARES Act. Now it's 18 months if you have a federally backed mortgage. And I think there's a lot of misinformation out there as well, right? Because the CARES Act really protects those who have a federally backed mortgage. So if you have a FHA mortgage, sorry, an FHA loan, a VA loan, a USDA loan, or a loan that's backed by Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, you have a lot of protections in place.
Yeah.
If you go onto the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's website, it states there that you're not required to make a lump sum payment when you pay back your missed mortgage payments. So for that 12-month period or 18-month period, we're not making any mortgage payments. If you have a federally backed mortgage, you do not have to make a lump sum payment. I think a lot of people were jumping on the gun on that,
Mhm.
saying, hey, once these people end the forbearances, if they still don't have a job, how are they going to write a check for $10,000 to $20,000? Of course, they can't do that. So I think there's a lot of options for people available out there for forbearance for forbearances. Um, and what we're seeing so far too is that people that are exiting forbearance are not selling their houses. So
Okay.
the NBA just announced this a couple of days ago, the Mortgage Bankers Association, that only 7.5% of people are either selling their houses or refining after the forbearance, and over 50% just continued to make their mortgage payment or did a loan deferral. And so we're seeing right now, so far, we're not seeing a inventory surge due to people exiting forbearance.
That's so interesting. And what I love about your value, your channel, what you do, Jason, is you come with the stats, with the facts, you come with percentages, and that's true value because when you put it in the grand scheme of things, it's like 4.4% of all mortgages are in mortgage forbearance. It kind of makes you realize that it's not that much of a number to cause some crazy stuff happening in the housing market. I do know one thing though. I know that everything that's happening with these stimulus packages, with these extensions and all these moratoriums, I know that there has to be a reaction of some sort. My true belief is that everybody's predicting there's going to be a housing crash or not. I feel there has to be a catalyst, something, maybe not in the housing market, but something to trigger something bigger to happen. I'm kind of vague with it because I honestly don't know myself. But what happened when the pandemic hit? Is nobody expected it. We were in the strongest market and it completely collapsed the market and shut us down for a couple of months. So maybe something that sort to happen, I don't know. But also people say that we already went through the crash. We already saw the stock market dip 50% or something. We already seen all this stuff going crazy when the entire economy shut down. Some people think that we already finished it. I began foreclosures. That's how I got into real estate. I would go to the auction, I would buy a foreclosure, I would fix it and then flip it. I haven't done that in the last about a year and a couple of months, solely because all these foreclosure bans and all these moratoriums and extensions happening, there's no opportunity there. I can't even
Totally
find.
true.
So I don't know. I feel something has to happen and it's not going to be good. I don't know what it would be exactly or how it would come, but there has to be a reaction. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, at some point, home prices have to go down. It's really hard to guess where that's going to come from, though, right? Because people, like, we have two sources of inventory, right? Those are people selling their houses and from new home builders. The stats for housing starts are coming out on Friday. At the time of this video, this is what, Tuesday. So in a few days, we'll have housing stat numbers for March. And so I'm really interested to see what that's going to look like, because the stats for permits and housing starts last month actually went down. Even though we had this high buyer demand, the stats actually went down. That's partially due to all the cold you guys had, the winter storms we had there
Yeah.
in February, but also because construction costs are like through the roof. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how builders react to these rising costs for lumber and all the building materials. Yet we still have super high buyer demand. So that's going to be really interesting to follow that.
I agree 100%. Now, what do you see happening if interest rates just shot up? If they went from, let's say they're 3% right now, they went to 4 to 5%, what's happening to the housing market?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So I would kind of look back at 2018, the end of 2018, the rates went up quite a bit. They
Mhm.
went up to about 5% in a fairly short period of time. And in Sacramento, at least, we had a cooling off period during that time. So it was late 2018, but rates have decreased quite a bit since then. But yeah, if interest rates were to shoot up, then yeah, I think it will have a cooling off period. If they were actually to skyrocket, then we would have a correction, in my opinion. I think a lot of people are used to rates at around 3% right now, right? And so rates were as low as 2.7 earlier this year. Right now they're around 3.3%. So if they were to increase in the upper threes, I think we'll definitely see a cooling off period, because we're seeing home prices increase. But then if interest rates also increase, then affordability becomes more and more of an issue, right? Okay, you got a lot of comments on your channel too, where people are saying, hey, I'm tapped out. I placed an offers on properties, 10, 15 offers, and I'm done. I'm going to be renting for a year. And so I think we're seeing more and more of that, where people are going to be having more of an affordability issue or concern about home prices increasing. So that may be kind of like a slowing trend of our housing market, but it's anyone's guess. And there's a lot of people too who are fear of interest rates going up, and so they want to get in now before interest rates increase more.
Yeah.
So it's just it's gonna be really interesting to follow this.
That's the crazy thing. Everyone's trying to lock in these crazy low interest rates, not realizing that if you paid instead of buying it now for 3%, if you paid 5%, you're still getting a better deal than overpaying 100,000, 50,000 today. And another thing they're not realizing is they can buy the rate down to a certain extent, but they can buy it down if they're really that crazy about that low rate. But that's just what's happening with people who are maybe being misguided, maybe not realizing, maybe desperate, maybe been waiting a couple years and just need to make the move. So we can't say much about that. Now, if we had interest rates pick up and we saw supply picking up substantially, do you think that there will be a housing crash from that happening?
It depends on how much, right? So if rates were to increase to 4%, I think we'll definitely see a cooling off. I would be shocked if we don't, because we've had rates of around this around 3% for so long. And if inventory increases as well, then yeah, then sellers are going to have to compete against with the buyers, right? Whereas right now, it's just all the buyers competing against each other. And so, yeah, it's me really interested to see what happens with that, but hard to say. I don't really see anything yet that's telling me that rates are going to increase beyond 3.5%. A lot of people think that rates are going to be around 3.5% until the end of the year, and then housing inventory. Yeah, it's gonna be really interesting to see about new construction and actually people wanting to list their houses, right? It's gonna be interesting to see what happens to that, but it's so hard to tell because it's anyone's guess. People actually own their houses. It's anyone's guess when people are gonna be really deciding to list their houses. I personally think it's a lot of it was because of those people are either gonna be renting or selling their houses, but renting or buying a house. So if they want to purchase a home, but they're looking on the market, they're going on to Redfin or Realtor.com, whatever, and they're not seeing very many houses for sale. In the meantime, they've locked in their refi rate of less than 3%. And they're saying, okay, well, I can sell my house now, but now my rate's going to be 3.5%. And then the home prices are a lot higher. So giving people, in my opinion, little incentive to move, even though they can cash out all their equity. But what's your take on it?
I agree with you. I see that as of right now, if interest rates went up and supply started to go up, when we speak a crash, instantly everybody's starting to assume 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
I don't relate to those terms of '08 and '09 because I think what happened then is very different than what could happen now. But I definitely see a cool off in the market because if on one street you have only one house, let's say a radius of 3 miles, in this area that I'm at right now, within 3 miles, you might have, if you're lucky, two houses that are comparable to each other with square footage wise and then price wise within just 3 miles. So you have within 3 miles only two houses of a specific spec, and you have hundreds of buyers all wanting that specific spec.
Yep.
So you're telling me if you have now 20, 30, 40 houses, I definitely see competition being a lot less per house, which is going to have to just make the house prices at least sell for their ask price, not way above. If anything, create more competition to where the sellers are going to have to dip down because they're realizing somebody is undercutting them and putting it for 5K less. I just sold a house that I listed it for 350, and the same exact, I think 2 weeks later, we went pending the same day. 2 weeks later, down the street, 4 or 5 houses down, the same exact house listed. It was 400 square feet less. They also listed for 350. I'm positive that the homeowner or the realtor or someone told them, hey, your neighbor just listed. They're getting this number. We can possibly get you the same number. Now, when we listed it for 350, we ended up selling it for 375. And you're talking 25K over. That same house was worth max 300 a year and a half ago before the pandemic. Wow. So these homeowners are loving their life, making 50, 100K more than what they thought. But the reality is, printing $5 trillion, asset prices going up, people scared of inflation. That gets very detailed, very crazy, but I don't know. I think we live in a time where we're just going to have to let time play itself out. There's a statement that you say a lot and that I love is that kicking the can down the road, it just means that it's basically delaying stuff. And when I hear that, I believe it very strong, especially with these stimulus packages and all these moratoriums and extensions. And I mean, they keep extending every time it's about to end. The deadline's about to come 2 days, they then extend. And I'm sure that they know they're going to extend, but they just put everybody on their toes and then just extend. So that's what we're dealing with right now. Anyways, everybody who's watching this video right now, if you got any value, please don't forget to hit that like button. And most importantly, subscribe. Subscribe to my channel. Subscribe to Jason Walter's channel. You get weekly updates. Jason, how many times do you upload a week?
About 4 times a week.
Is it a set schedule or it's just whenever you're feeling good?
It's as often as I possibly can. It's basically the answer to it without, as long as I can find new content, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so you have Jason who's uploading about 4 times a week. You have me uploading about 3 times a week. You got value here and you enjoyed that, then please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And Jason, last thing I'm going to leave you off with for everybody who's watching. If someone is confused right now and they want to buy a house, they've been waiting, they're motivated, they got the money, what's your advice for them? Should they wait or should they make the move?
If someone wants to buy a house, then I'm telling everyone, hey, make sure you have long-term time horizons, 7 to 10 plus years. And then also educate them about your current real estate market, right? Mm-hmm. You want to tell people that what actually is going on. So our market, a lot of people placing offers with putting a cap on the appraisal amount, making sure you have a really good lender you're working with. If you have an online lender, for example, then it's going to be very challenging for you to get offer accepted. But I'm just telling people to be patient. Telling people that buying a real estate right now can be a roller coaster where you have these ebbs and flows of positive news and negative news. You may have to place multiple offers. Just all depends. Last few buyers we got in contract actually the first time, but yeah, it can be really challenging at times.
You got it. Everybody, you heard it right there. If you're looking to buy a house, make sure you plan to stay there for at least 7 to 10 years. Make sure that you're prepared. And what I always say is that if you can pay the closing costs, the down payment, the furniture move-in, the move-in in general, plus have 1 year of savings to live off of, assuming you make $0, I would then advise that push. I know that's very, very safe and conservative, but I just don't know what's going to happen in this market. So I just want to make sure everyone I work with or everyone who's watching is doing the safest moves that they can possibly do. Anyways, guys, thank you all so much for watching. Much love to everybody who spent the time to listen through this. Me and Jason value it. And we also value Jason, who spent his time to come on here and talk with us about the market. So thank you so much, Jason, for that.
Absolutely.
And most importantly, everybody, be safe, subscribe, and we'll see you guys later. Me and Jason, we're out.